Welcome to this special broadcast. We will be hearing from Dr. Robert DuPont, MD, a significant medical specialist in mental health and addiction disease issues and treatments. Dr. DuPont was the first director of the National Institute of Drug Abuse and the second White House drug chief. He then became the founding president of the Institute for Behavioral Health Incorporated, a nonprofit drug abuse research and policy organization, and also joined the faculty of the Georgetown University School of Medicine as clinical professor of psychiatry. A graduate of Emory University, he received an MD degree from Harvard Medical School and completed his psychiatric training at Harvard and the National Institutes of Health. He has been a practicing psychiatrist for more than 55 years. My name is Johnny Allem, a person enjoying 43 years of recovery from addiction. I was one of the founders of Faces and Voices of Recovery, a national organization representing thousands of people in recovery across the United States. I was a founder of the DC Recovery Community Alliance in the nation's capital. Also, I served for 13 years on the board of directors of Stepping Stones, the home of Bill and Lois Wilsons, one of the founders of Alcoholics Anonymous. Welcome, Bob. We did this interview a number of years ago. I know a lot has happened in science and practice of this field, and a lot has happened in this field since our last program. It's good to see you.
I'm honored to be here with you, Johnny. I admire you and have for decades, and to be on this program is a thrill for me.
Okay. Well, my first question is, you were a pioneer in addiction treatment in the District of Columbia. How did that happen, and what did you learn when you led the Narcotic Treatment Administration from 1970 to 1973?
It's hard to imagine what training in medicine is like, but I went to get my first job at the age of 32. I was in training until I was 32 years old. And at that point, I had to ask the question, what was I going to do with my career? I had kind of fancy credentials, having graduated from Harvard Medical School and NIH. But the question was, what would I do? And it's hard for people to imagine this now. But at that time, 1968, the District of Columbia was very much in the national news because of a crime wave that had started about 5 years earlier. So that in the presidential election in 1968, Washington was called the crime capital of the nation. Richard Nixon used that term about it. And at that time, the district government was a part of the federal government. The president appointed the mayor of the city, for example. It didn't have home rule. And so when Nixon was elected, some citizens went to the White House and said, okay, you called it the crime capital of the nation. It's now your capital. What are you going to do about it? We're going to hold a meeting, a public meeting every month about the crime in the district. And we're going to see what happens to it under your watch. So he was put on tremendous notice at that point. Now, that was the time when I was looking for a job. And I was caught up also in this issue of crime in Washington. And I had worked one day a month at a prison, the Norfolk prison in Massachusetts when I was a resident. And I liked the prisoners. I was actually very interested in the people and their stories in the prison. And here I am at 32 years old looking for a job. I said, I would like to help the prisoners. I would like to do something that would make a difference to them for good in that. And I signed up with the DC Department of Corrections, which was a very unusual thing to do with my background in that. But I was completely sincere in that to do that. And then the question came up about what was causing the crime epidemic? Why was that happening? Why was it going on in the District of Columbia? And in August of 1969, I got some students from George Washington University together, and we went down to DC jail and we took urine samples from everybody who came into DC jail for a month. Uh, and we got the results right away. And 44% of them were positive for heroin, recent heroin use. Just about half of them were heroin addicts who came into the DC jail. And then we asked each time, each person, when did you first start using heroin? And when we mapped the first use of heroin against the crime rate in the city, it was the same curve. So now I never had seen a drug addict in my practice when I was growing, when I was going to training. I didn't know anything about addiction at all in terms of treatment. But here's a problem. And that led to my trying to figure it out. And I went around the country and talked to people and learned about things and decided that one of the ways that could make a very big difference was to start a methadone program. There were no methadone programs in Washington, D.C. at all. It never had been. And so 6 weeks after that study, I administered the first dose of methadone in Washington down at the D.C. jail in terms of a community activity out related to the jail. And that really started me in to learn about addiction and to start a program that wasn't just about methadone. We did drug-free programs too, but a lot of it was methadone, and that was the visibility of it. And that began a lifelong fascination with what is this problem? What do you do about it? What's causing it? What's the illness like? What about getting well? What does that mean? And I see myself as a lifelong student of addiction. To me, addiction is a teacher. Addiction is a teacher of the addicted person. Addiction is a teacher of the family and the friends of the addicted person. Addiction is a teacher of institutions like schools, medicine. Addiction is teaching everybody. So I see that as my lifelong project, and it isn't finished yet. I'm still learning about it and humble about what it is I know. But I'm utterly fascinated. It's an utterly human problem. No animals have addiction, never have. They can't get the drugs, and it's mercifully for them. But it's a human problem, and it's a modern human problem, and it's worth paying attention to.
Well, and how has the drug problem changed over the past 6 decades? Where do you see it going in the future?
Well, it's become a big business, and it's both legal and illegal. And it used to be a couple of drugs, that was it. We can think about alcohol as a drug and a long history with that too, going back. But it was pretty simple by comparison in 1968. Even marijuana was very rarely used by that point. It wasn't a big deal at all. And you see the tremendous growth of the number of drugs. The whole illegal drug market has become global and very sophisticated. Now there's new drugs every day. We get literally thousands of drugs now used by drug users to get high. To what they're doing is stimulating brain reward. The brain has centers in it that are designed to reinforce behavior. And the simple examples of those are feeding, eating, appetites, and sex, where you get very important brain functions that promote the behaviors. Well, what drugs are is chemicals that trick that center and super stimulate it by producing brain reward. That's what the addiction is about. The person gets hooked on using the chemicals to feel good, to be excited and happy and live a life. I feel when you're using drugs, you feel like you can't live without the drug. That's what happens, and that's purely human, and it's become global. The United States was really a center of the beginning of that in the 1960s, but it's global now because the brains are global and the drugs are global. So it's grown in size, grown in diversity, and much more social complexity because the society, families, doctors, teachers, everybody has adapted to the drug, responded, maybe is a better word, to the drug problem, and so it's everywhere as a human problem, and it's never going to go away. There's never going to be a time where we're going to do away with drugs and the drug problem. It's going to be here. It's a human problem that'll be here as long as humans are here because it's so powerful. The issue has to do with minimizing it, lowering the cost, helping people, first of all, not use in the first place, and second of all, if they do use and have problems, get well. And to drop to the bottom line from my point of view about this long-winded story here is the great discovery for me in this all these 50 years plus is the miracle of recovery. I didn't know what recovery meant. I knew what stopping drugs meant, but I didn't know what recovery meant. And recovery is a whole lot more than stopping using drugs. And that's also very inspiring to me and to everybody else to understand that there's more to addiction than taking drugs, and there's more to recovery than not using drugs. And a lot of people don't understand that.
And Bob, what are the best ideas now in addiction prevention and addiction uh, generally? And speak as though we were talking to the family that has this issue.
Well, uh, first of all, I want to I don't know what to call commiserate with the family who's dealing with the person who's addicted to drugs, because the drugs hijack the brain, and they prioritize drug taking again above everything else, including family and life itself. I mean, it's a pretty powerful problem that the people are dealing with when they're dealing with a problem of addiction to drugs. But I want to keep the hope alive that it's a problem that can be solved. It's not hopeless. It's hard, but not hopeless. And so encourage them to engage to help the person stop. Now there's a thousand different things people do to stop using drugs. A lot of it has to do with medicine and healthcare, but other things too. Religion is a factor in this, and all kinds of things. Otherwise, but I think that the thing to know is that the hijacked brain of the person. It changes the way that person thinks and prioritizes the drug use, and of course hides the negative things as best they can because they don't want to have to stop using the drugs. Uh, but medicine has done a good job in this and has been useful in it. And there's a lot more interest in the medicine too, of what it can do. And I'm all in favor of medicine. But there's more to it than taking a pill or something like that. It really is changing the person, and the way that person thinks is a really important part of that. And to me, the most important discovery of mine in my half a century or more of dealing with this, wrestling with this demon of addiction, is the importance of the 12-step programs, Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Al-Anon, the other programs, all the 12-step family of programs. And when I think about what I've learned over that time, I'm a big fan of medication. I started out with medication, but the thing I'm really excited about is the 12 steps, which I'm proud to say started 1 year before my birth. It started in 1935 in Akron, Ohio, by a doctor and a recovering alcoholic, Bill Wilson, started this. And it's the most American thing you could possibly imagine. There's no credentials involved in it. There's no licensing. There's no money involved in it. It's all about people with the addiction problem, helping other people with the addiction problem. I mean, that's what it is. But it's not just being sympathetic and being nice and whatever else. It's really a program of how to regain and maintain control and live a better life. Uh, Most people don't understand that there's a lot more about addiction than just using drugs because it has a very bad effect on the character of the person who's using the drugs. The person is different when they're using the drugs. But the big thing is when a person stops using drugs and gets into recovery, it's a different person. It isn't just that they stopped using drugs, they're a different person. I've never known anybody in recovery who didn't agree with the statement that they're a different person and a better person when they're in recovery than they were when they were using drugs. So it is stopping using drugs, but it's more than stopping using drugs. It's being a better person. In fact, I didn't know this till I was in the field for 20 years. I only learned it from my patients because I always had all my own patients all that time. And one of the patients, a young guy, says, Doc, you don't really understand this, do you? And he sort of sat me down and explained about what recovery was about. And I have learned since, and I'm very proud of the efforts that I've made and happy about it. But I think most people don't understand that. And honestly, the more sophisticated the person is, the less they understand it. And that's troubling to me when I think about many of my colleagues who are very credentialed and very well trained and smart and do all kinds of research and treatment, but they don't understand that. So my mission in life is to help people understand that there's more wrong with the person who's using drugs than they're using drugs, and there's more right with the person who's in recovery than that they're not using drugs. Well, that's profound to me, and my mission is to try to get more people to see that, and you can see it easily from the people who are in recovery. They're the teachers of me and others. They'll teach everybody can learn from people in recovery, and recovery is like addiction; it's contagious, and I think that's pretty neat to think about that.
Well, you made a wonderful statement there talking about people as they get into recovery, beginning to share with each other and then what a learning lesson that is and what that means to their personal growth. That is an outstanding observation. And I know that you've seen that over the years. Um, what are the best ideas now in addiction as we look to the future on prevention as well as of addiction?
Wow. You're just pitching balls that are about 3 feet by in diameter. The big balls you're throwing at me to hit are so big. I'm overwhelmed by it. The bat can't miss the ball. It's so big the way you put it there. Look, addiction begins in childhood, youth, really. Typically, like 12 years old and older, and it turned mostly in the teenage years. And it can be much earlier. I mean, it can begin when you're 10 or 8 or something, but 12 would be a typical times to think about it. And so it's a pediatric onset illness. That's the way to think about it. Addiction is. It usually starts before the age of 21. And the earlier it starts, the more malignant the course is. So if a person starts at 25, let's say, the likelihood of their becoming addicted is relatively low. If they start at 12, the likelihood of addiction is very great, much greater in that. So it's a pediatric onset illness. So the game, the health game is to try to reduce that introduction to drugs. Well, I've done some research that I'm very proud of that looked at what percentage of American high school seniors have never used any drug in their lifetime. Okay, so by 12th grade in school, what percentage of 12th graders have never used any alcohol, any nicotine, any marijuana, or any other drugs? In 1983, that number was 3%. 97% had used one, and usually more than one, of those three drugs. Plus, many had used other drugs too, but just those three. So 3% had never used any, and 97% had used. Okay. Last year, the percentage of high school seniors in America who had not used any drugs in their lifetimes was 37%. So it went from 3% to 37%. That is big news to most Americans. They don't know that. They don't know how common it is now for kids to grow up with no drugs, zero, no alcohol, no nicotine, no vaping, no other drugs. More than a third of high school seniors are doing that. That is huge. The goal, Johnny, is pretty simple, and that is to grow that number and to move initiation of drug use out of the teenage years. And so the standard becomes the health standard. It's not a law. I mean, it is a law about selling the drugs, but no use of any drug prior to the age of 21. That's my mission in life at this late stage in my life, is to get across to the public that the health goal doesn't mean everybody's going to do it, but everybody should know about the health goal, that you want to protect that vulnerable adolescent brain from the seduction of the drugs, so you don't initiate drug use until 21. And of course, that's the legal age too for all the drugs. That's the legal age for tobacco. That's the legal age for marijuana. Legal age for all drugs. So that's my talking about my mission. My mission is to get across the idea to help people understand that getting kids through adolescence without using drugs is not hopeless. The kids have been leading the way in the country already for 4 decades, and nobody noticed it, what was going on. And you want to encourage that. And the way I think about it is to protect the adolescent brain, the vulnerable adolescent brain. So that's I call it one choice. It's not about this drug or that drug. It's about any drug and no drug. Youth is. And that's really important to me, to get that idea across. First of all, to get people to believe it's possible, because they don't think when they were in school, everybody was using something. Well, it's true they were, but they aren't now. And that's partly because young people are obsessed, I might say, with mental health. They're worried about mental health. And a lot of them are. And so they're receptive to this message. So my goal is that in terms of the prevention. Well, there's many other things to say, but that's it. One choice. The one choice is don't use for reasons of health, because of the vulnerability of that brain. It's not because you might not like it. It's because you would like it. You're likely to like it. It has a biological effect on your brain that gets you to want to do more of it. And to flirt with that is unwise. And I say, pay attention to the kids. They're already doing it. Just encourage them to do it more.
Are you saying, Bob, that parents need to be more focused, or we need to more focus on parents to carry that message and know that all they're concerned about kids' health as they're growing up, but this is a health problem that could emerge, and they need to do things to be aware of that?
You got it, Johnny. You got it. That's exactly. But not just the parents, the teachers. The American Pediatric Association. Now, this is the Association of all American pediatricians. Says that every pediatrician should talk to every adolescent patient on every visit and ask them about their drug use. And if they're not using any drugs, the pediatrician is to say, Good job. Keep it up. If they are using drugs and don't have any problems, the pediatrician's job is to say, stop using, it's dangerous. And if they're using drugs and having problems, the pediatrician is to say, get treatment. That's the right way to do it. Now, pediatricians are busy with their visits with the patients. It's hard to get them across, but that's the official advice to every pediatrician for the Pediatrics Association. I would like to have all teachers have that idea. I would like to have all parents have that idea. That's the right way to think about what this problem is.
Okay. People like yourself that are leaders in the factual scientific background here, are you looking at substances that are more used today than were before and what we need to look for and be aware of in the future?
Well, drugs are a big business, many, many billions of dollars. And the people who are making the illegal drugs are very clever and they're very experimental. They try all kinds of things, and they've got not literally thousands of different drugs are being sold now to people, and they're doing a vast brain research project, the illegal drug dealers are trying all kinds of things. And the only way the way they measure their success is money. If it sells, it's good. If it doesn't sell, it's bad. And they don't have to go through any FDA testing or anything like that. It's market tested. If it sells and the guy comes back again, he didn't die, that's a good drug. They want to do that. So they're very inventive and very creative. But on the legal side, people are also very clever to sell nicotine. We did a good job of unselling cigarettes, but look what happened. And now you've got all these alternative ways of delivering nicotine so that the nicotine addiction goes on. And the same thing with alcohol, all the different ways of merchandising alcohol. I think that the creativity of the drug sellers, both legal and illegal, is commendable. I mean, it's remarkable how they respond and how it grows. And I want to remind everybody that this is not an American problem. This is a human problem. So it's all over the world. This is going on, and it's a serious thing. But addiction is a teacher. Addiction is a teacher, and you can learn from the experience and learn from the personal experience. You can learn from the experience of people you love and know. You can learn from studying things that are going on, all of which is good. I'm very optimistic about the future about drugs. I don't feel pessimistic at all about it, but the challenge is very great, and it's uh, when it's a matter of brain health that we're talking about, and the drugs are contrary to brain health.
There's three levels of early intervention or treatment that I'd like to hear you discuss. One is that do parents need to know more about looking out for signs that they need to be things? Secondly, what about off-site treatment facilities versus full-time treatment facilities and the whole field of treatment right now? Where does that stand right now?
Well, I think I should ask you about that. You're the professional one in that regard here. So, have our viewers got to understand that there's a little bit of role reversal going on with you and me in this. I don't think there's any bad treatments for drugs. I think the people who are doing all the different treatments are well-meaning, at least as far as I know, they're well-meaning, and they all work some, but they all fail often. And the most common outcome of drug treatment is relapse. And it's humbling to everybody, including the finest treatment programs. It's a real big project, and sometimes one is not enough, and two times and three times, and whatever it takes to get people there. As I think about it, I think the idea that we're going to find the right treatment or the best treatment, I don't think so. I don't think it's going to be like that. It's not like that now. There are such variety of things that are going on. I like the variety. I think that that's good. One of the things that's strange to me is the most sophisticated people in the drug field now, the ones with all the degrees and credentials and all, are very eager to find a pill that's going to solve the problem. And I'm a guy who started with methadone, so you'd think about me, I must be a pill guy about it. And when we used methadone, it was called medication assisted treatment. The treatment wasn't the methadone. The methadone was assisting in treatment. Now, the most sophisticated people think the medicine is the treatment. And I don't think that's a winning strategy to find a pill that's going to cure addiction. I think the pills can help. I'm a pill fan. I'm not against pills, but I think it's expecting more than the pills are going to deliver. And so I like the variety of treatment that we have, and it's all over the place. Uh, but I want you to remember that all over the place also is the 12 steps, and they're absolutely free and everywhere, and including now with Zoom, you can go. I have a patient who's a doctor from a South American country, and he's in recovery and very involved with AA and NA, and now he can go to meetings in his own country by Zoom, which is kind of amazing to think about what that's like. But anyway, it makes it very accessible to people, which I think is also very good.
Mhm.
I'm not
Well,
I, I'm not a person who thinks there's a magic bullet that's going to solve the problem. I don't think so. I think we got a lot of bullets, and they all have some success and some failure, and we need the variety. That's good. The people are a lot of variety to the people, and I think that's good. But also, I don't think a lot of people think, you have, I don't know, opiate addiction or cannabis addiction or something like that. It's not specific to the drug. It's the use of drugs to stimulate brain pleasure. That's the problem. And there are thousands of drugs that do that. And so you're not treating, let's say cocaine addiction. Uh, that's not how the disease is. The person who's using cocaine is using five other drugs too. Uh, and so if you had a pill that was going to solve the cocaine problem, it wouldn't really make any difference because there's so many other drugs out there. So this idea that somehow we're going to solve the drug problem in a pill or some treatment pill form or medicine I don't think it's very realistic. The phenomena is much broader than that, at least the way it is now. And all the pills, all the treatments are substance specific. All of our diagnoses are substance specific. We don't have any substance specific patients. There's nobody like that. Everybody's using multiple drugs. So a solution that is specific to a chemical like cocaine or methamphetamine or fentanyl, opioids, is doomed because you don't have any patients that are just taking one drug.
so you're saying that people need to be aware of these things when they leave some treatment, that they need to know the options for different drugs, but they also need to be established into some other form of continuing treatment like AA and NA and other programs that keep them involved.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think that's right. That's right. The treatment is a step in the process of recovery. It's not the recovery itself. And the treatments are very important in that. And getting in a treatment program where other people are going with you and you've got some teachers, some leaders who are helping you, I think that's a great idea. Getting into treatment is a great idea. But another thing that a lot of people, people who have money and they can get them into some kind of fancy treatment, and all think that they're going to get fixed in the treatment program. Well, the treatment programs don't fix them. The treatment programs help people get into recovery. That's good, but they're not the solution. And people will pay a lot of money for a fancy drug treatment program and are amazed that 30 days later the person's back using the drugs. Well, that's the nature of the disease, and it's one time is often doesn't work. You got to keep after it over time. But the thing that keeps you going, the thing that keeps you hopeful, is the emergence of a huge community of recovery in the United States and the world. Pretty much now everybody knows somebody in recovery, and talk to those people. How did they do that? What it's like? What's their life like now? What was their life like when they were using, and what's their life now like now? That's a heck of a thing to ask because the difference is so dramatic of what that change is. Uh, the people in recovery will tell you how painful, how difficult, how destructive, how uh, demoralizing their life was when they were using. And they'll tell you how glorious their life is in recovery. They don't have to be rich or famous or whatever else. They just love life in a way they didn't love life before.
Talk about relapsing. People come from really high, uh, well-established treatment centers and maybe go to a meeting or two, or maybe stay sober for 2 years, 5 years. I know people have had relapses after 10 years. And they're not, it's not because they're not paying attention sometimes, but maybe because their families or their relationships don't understand what recovery is about, don't understand the disease to begin with. But what's your feeling about how to do something about relapses?
Well, I think the thing to do is every person with an addiction problem should know that they are not fixed,
Hmm.
that they are vulnerable to a relapse, that is the nature of the disease, and they're going to have to be on their guard for the rest of their lives.
Hmm.
It's not a light switch that's turned off. I remember a patient of mine was talking about he was in long-term recovery from alcohol, and he described walking by a store that was selling beer, and he had no intention of going in there when he walked by that store. But all of a sudden, he turned and went in there and drank the six pack in short order after that and was off to the races again. He was shocked by that. Well, it's important. They say at an AA meeting, the most important person is the one day of recovery, because a lot of those people have been in recovery before and have relapsed, and they're there to educate the others there that their own vulnerability. You got to keep that vulnerability in mind. And the only way to deal with it is not to use. It's not to cut down. It's not to use this drug, but not that drug. It's no use of any drug. That's sobriety. And that's that's very important to understand that. But again, this is wisdom that doesn't come from studies. It comes from the experience of the drug users themselves, and it's a shared wisdom. You were talking to me about how I got started in the field, and how I didn't know anything about AA or anything like that, or NA, and I was just interested in the methadone and formal treatment. But I had a group of I call them ex-addict advisors. These were people who had been heroin addicts earlier and now were not using. And they were my main guys. I had about 6 or 8 of them, and they were all wonderful. And they spent a lot of time in the program. We had as many as 4,500 patients at a time at NTA, so it was a lot of patients. And they would go around to all the clinics and talk to the people there. And they were sort of my eyes and ears, and I relied on them a great deal. One of them, maybe you know, Nat Turner. Did you know Nat Turner? Yeah, he's a wonderful guy, a very public figure in the community. was in recovery, and that was very public knowledge. I'm talking about something he didn't talk about. Uh, but anyhow, I went to his retirement from a job, and I was celebrating with him and congratulating him. And so I asked about the other guys. How are they doing? So I asked about this guy, and he said, "Well, he's dead." And he went to another, "Well, he's dead," and another one, "He's dead." They were all dead, and I assumed they had gone back to heroin. That was what they had. No, they all died of alcoholism. They all died of alcoholism. These were heroin addicts when they're in their youth, but in their older age, they died of alcoholism. So I said to Nat Turner, I said, "How come you're alive and they're dead?" He said, "That's very simple. I went to AA meetings and they didn't."
Mhm.
That was stunning to me. That was stunning. Talk about what's evidence. That's evidence. And it changed me. That evidence did.
That's why I've always said it's a one day at a time program.
Yeah, it is.
Each day is a new day. It isn't about
Yes.
yesterday, it's not about tomorrow, it's about today. And if you don't practice your program, you're in trouble for
Yeah.
relapse and that sort of thing. But I want to get back to a minute to your field. Looking at this thing from a science perspective now, what are you expecting to go next to challenge scientifically about this, about mental health and about addiction recovery? What is the next uh, challenge that professional people like yourself are facing and trying to resolve?
I think we have a deficiency of humility, and I think I would like to see some antidotes and some vaccines to promote more humility of the experts. I'd start with that about this. This disease is cunning, baffling, and powerful, and I don't care how smart you are and what your degrees are. This degrees will take you down. It's very, very striking about that. No, I think this is a uniquely human disease, and you can addict animals to drugs, but they just don't have any access to it in nature. And they act just like addicts do. They prioritize the drugs and they'll use them till they die and all that stuff about that. Uh, but I think humility is my thing that I would focus on. And the more the person's an expert, the more in need they are humility about this disease. It'll teach you humility whether you intend it to do it or not. If you just stay with it. Uh, but anyhow, it's a teacher, and it's a harsh teacher. And the negative thing is not just flunking a grade; it's dying. It's a pretty severe kind of teacher also. Uh, but I'm excited about science and what science can come up with. But the idea that we're going to find a silver bullet, I don't think so. And as I say, all the medicines are substance specific, and the disease isn't substance specific. So that's pretty much a humility factor right there. Uh, but it is also always new. It's so interesting the different drugs and the 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 uh, the culture of the culture war going on about drugs. For example, do you really think the person who's using has an addiction problem should stop? I mean, why not just cut down? What's wrong with that as a goal? And a lot of people, uh, experts like me, believe cutting down is a great idea. You know, just have a few drinks. You don't have to drink the six pack or the bottle of vodka. You just have one drink. Well, the addict's not going to do one drink. That's not going to work very well. And but anyhow, but a lot of experts really believe that's good. And another thing that happens that I find very troubling is the idea that to respect the using addict in their use of the drugs and to say, I want to help you use more safely. All for safer use. I don't want people to die. I understand that. But the thing you want to say to that person is, you're better off not using than you are using. Sure, I'm happy to help you have Narcan and whatever else we can do to keep you alive. That's right. I'm for that. But I want to also say, but the healthy thing for you to do is not to use at all, because this is a dangerous and demeaning behavior pattern. And I'd like to help you achieve that goal. To me, that marks me as a radical in our field, because there's a lot of feeling that's disrespectful, that it's imposing my judgments on somebody else. Well, I think I understand that, but I don't feel that way, because to me, the person who's continuing to use after they've had, I'm not talking about everybody using, I'm just talking about the ones who've had serious problems from their use. If you've had serious problems from your use, the idea that you're going to find a way to not have serious problems and continue to use is pretty unlikely. I wouldn't say it was impossible, but I don't think I've ever seen that. And I think you need to be very honest with the person that the healthy place to be is no use. You've completed the research on this yourself, and you need to recognize that the results of that research, and I'm here to help you do that. And there's a lot of other people who can help you do it too. It isn't just me, including the community of people who are in recovery. Get out and get to know some of them. Listen to their stories. They'll inspire you.
Bob, what are you seeing in these recovery schools that are going on, where they're teaching, where they're getting students who have a problem, more or less on their away from their friends for temporarily, and to get some studying, to get their school, but they're also getting treatment information. What do you think about that movement? It's spreading through the country right now.
I think it's terrific. I think it's terrific. And I think that the students in recovery can teach everybody. And it's fun to me to talk to those kids who are in the recovery schools and in recovery classes and recovery meetings in schools. They're inspiring. They're all inspiring. The more we focus on them, the better. It's like in the prevention area, the more we focus on the kids who made the decision not to use, the better also. And because those stories are wonderful. And it's true with the recovery. And I think having in every school to have meetings of people who are in recovery, or dormitories that are recovery dormitories, or recovery schools are good. All of that I think is really important. It's fun for me, Johnny, to see the people in recovery. It's like they're inspiring. They're excited. It's like they're out of prison. Kind of a feeling is what's wonderful. So I like all of that. I think it's very good. It's also useful to, I'm a big fan of 12-step recovery. There are people who stop using drugs who don't use 12 steps. I understand that that's true, and I'm all for them. I think that's great. I wouldn't say that everybody's got to go to the 12-step meeting, but the 12-step meetings are inspiring and helpful, and I think they're useful to people who don't even have drug problems because of what they do and how they do it. But I don't think there's one way to do that. But I do feel very strongly that the encouraging and supporting somebody and continuing to use drugs that are cause them problems is not in their interest. So encouraging, supporting, continuing use for people who've had problems with the drug use, I don't think is a good idea.
And you're including the importance of Al-Anon.
Yes, and well, and that's very important too, of the people around the person with the addiction and what they have learned and how they grow. also from dealing with the addiction, because the addicted person's behavior is educational not only to them but to other people too. And I think that that's right. And the question about the people in Al-Anon about how to help the people who are not in recovery uh, is uh, is a very interesting and important one too. How do you help somebody get into recovery? That's a challenge to do that. But I think that them getting together around the challenges of loving somebody who has an addiction problem, I think that's a pretty neat idea also.
Mhm. And what is your view of what we're doing as a society through the government, local and state governments, and including national SAMHSA? Are they up to speed here, or are they need to work a little harder?
It's funny you say that because they're the ones who are in charge. They're the ones who look at Bob DuPont and say, "Geez, wasn't he kind of an idea from another decade ago? Is can't we get a little something better than that?" I don't know. Uh, I like the people who are in those jobs. I was in those jobs when I was young. The thing I didn't understand is you don't stay in those jobs very long. Mostly, you're here today, gone tomorrow. The exception to that is Nora Volkoff at NIDA, who's been there for 20 years. That's because she went to NIH. When I was at NIDA, it wasn't part of NIH, and when you turned to administration, you were history. That's what happened to me. Uh, Jimmy Carter came in, and that was good. I actually was a big fan of Jimmy Carter's and actually knew him. He'd come to NTA to see NTA. Jimmy Carter came to see NTA, and I got him to start a program like NTA in Georgia. When he was at NTA, he was impressed that he wanted to know how many patients I had of my 4,500 patients were named Jimmy Carter, and we looked it up, and it was five of them. We had five James Carters in our in our patient population. I also never saw any white person able to talk to black people the way Jimmy Carter could. It was a stunning example when he came to our program, to the way he related to the patients. He was very, very impressive about that. Anyway, so he became president, and he appointed a fellow named Joe Califano to be head of HEW, who was my boss, was the head of HEW. And when Joe Califano came in, he wanted new directors of all the institutes. So he came to me and said, "You're done." What do you mean I'm done? No, you're out. I said, "Well, I'm a civil servant. You can't just fire me." He said, "No, I'll give you an office and a secretary. You can stay there until you retire, but you're not going to be running NIDA anymore." Uh, and so I left. That was the end of my government service. Uh, but the way the world works is kind of interesting because Jimmy Carter got into a conflict with Joe Califano. I mean, Joe Califano got in conflict with Jimmy Carter, and so Califano left. And I later on, I was with Jimmy Carter's chief of staff, and he said to me, "The biggest regret I have about the Carter administration was we didn't fire that son of a bitch before he fired you." And I thought, well, that's life in the big city. And then Joe Califano had me speak to his group. He started a program to deal with drugs, and he introduced me as the smartest guy he'd ever worked with on drugs. And I said, "Joe, it's a privilege to work with you. Thank you very much." And he said, "Good, thank you, Bob. I'm glad I was helpful to you." And that's how we ended that relationship. But that's life in the city, of what it's like today.
Yeah, Nora was a wonderful person and leadership person. My next question is about, have you feel that there's been effective participation by spiritual or church community in either the prevention of addiction or the care for those that are afflicted?
I think the spiritual religious aspect of it is really important, and I think it's a very important way into it, and also the way out of it. I think absolutely. And it's about something bigger than yourself. And one of the things that addiction does is narrow your focus about just on yourself. And religion is a way of bigger things, more important things than just you. And I think that's really very important. So I think the religious community has a tremendous role in both prevention and recovery. And very important. And the 12 steps are like that. It's a spiritual program. And people don't like that. Scientists like me, when somebody talks about religion or spirituality, they wheels start turning. It sounds like it's crazy to them to understand that, but it isn't crazy. It's about who you are as a person and what's important to you. And religion is all about that. It's about how to live a good life. And so I think religion is a natural. It's not an accident. A lot of AA meetings are in the basements of churches.
Are you optimistic or pessimistic about the future of addiction in our community and also in human history?
Well, it's new, really. It started in the 60s, and really the United States was a hotbed of it. And why did it start in the United States in the 1960s? It's very simple. That was the baby boom reaching adolescence. The baby boom changed American culture, and it changed the culture about drug use. It was youth-centered. That Timothy Leary said, you never trust anybody over the age of 30. I was on the Today Show with him when he was celebrating his book, his autobiography. It's called Flashbacks. And I was sort of the alternative to Timothy Leary on the Today Show that day. And it was very interesting to think about his role in that. And he was an interesting guy. He was a figure, a leader, a thought leader in the baby boom population. Do it now, kind of a thing, and consciousness expansion with the drugs. Anyway, that was what he was after, and that is stuck. It's become part of our culture altogether. But the baby boom got older, and things changed. Now the baby boomers are retiring, which is sort of interesting to think about that. But I'm very optimistic. I've said it before, Johnny. Addiction is a teacher. It's a teacher of individuals. It's a teacher of families. It's a teacher of the whole world. And it's a harsh, even cruel teacher, but powerful. And I think that's going to, where it's going to be. It's not going to go away. There isn't any magic bullet that's going to take it away. The drugs really do work, and people really do like the drugs. And that's biology. And it's not going to stop. And it's not going to stop. The drug users are not, the drug sellers are not going to go away. They're always going to be here. Now there can be more or less. We can have progress. We can make it better, but you can't make it go away. And so we'll live with it. And I think that drug use can make us smarter. The drug use can make us better people. And that's my goal. I want to see the silver lining in recovery and also in prevention. I'm inspired by the kids who are making the decision not to use any drugs to protect their brain health. I think that's commendable and exciting and contagious. Johnny, I'd like to say a word or two about well-being beyond the issue of using drugs and not using drugs. We're at a tipping point in our society right now that is very important and I think very positive about mental health and well-being and healthy living. and understanding the vulnerability of people today that's related to what's going on. The emergence of electronics and in our world, and just the way things are is very stressful to lots of people. And right now there's a change going on, and there's a kind of self-preservation, I guess to say it, that is bringing us back to think about mental well-being, and what do we need to do to keep our focus on our lives, to be respectful of our needs, mental health, our limitations, our dealing with our risks, because we got lots of forces in the society that are changing and putting a lot more people at risk than ever was before. And part of that is just an individual introspection about what's important to me, what are the things that are going on that I need to attend to, and how do I need to attend to them, but also collectively for us as a whole. And I think addiction problems can be a way into that larger focus on not just vulnerability, yes, but also the potential for developing us in response to the threats of drug abuse, or response to the rapid cultural changes, to get us to think about, well, what's really important? What do I need? How can I help somebody else? And I think that the drug story of helping each other through AA is a wonderful model for dealing with mental health problems generally. And I think this is a time when that's beginning to happen, and it's exciting. One of the big reasons kids don't use drugs now is because they're concerned about their mental health. Kids are concerned about mental health now in the way they never were before. I think that can be good, especially when we do it in a collective way with other people, not just me, but how I can help somebody else, because that act of being helpful with somebody also changes the whole dynamic. And again, our experience with drugs is a precedent that we can use much more broadly in the society. To be with you, Johnny, and you're a living example of the miracle of recovery. And I talked about how drugs are contagious. My friend, recovery is contagious, and you are a great exemplar of the miracle of recovery and how contagious it is. I was late in my career, 20 years in before I even know recovery existed. And I pray for my colleagues who in the field now, especially the very fancy ones, who have no clue what recovery is, but it's changing the world, and for the better. And I'm privileged to be with you and to do whatever I can to encourage and support recovery.
Bob, this has been a terrific report from subjects that's dear to all our hearts. On behalf of everybody in recovery and all people who care about people on this issue, I want to thank you for this program. It affects so many people here and around the world. Before we close, I want to show our audience the most recent books that you and I have published. And here's your book here. The first is Chemical Slavery, Understanding Addiction and Stopping the Drug Epidemic. And my book is Say the Second Thing That Comes to Your Mind. Thank you for your time.